Good afternoon, Jacob. How are you doing?
Doing well, Father. Good to see you.
And you too.
Thanks.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, your family, and what stage of the seminarian process you're in?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Jacob Stinnett. I grew up here in Columbus. I went and still go to Immaculate Conception Parish down in Clintonville. Um, I grew up in the parish, went to the parish school, went to one of our local Catholic high schools, St. Charles Preparatory School for high school. Um, my younger sister is uh, 2.5 years younger, and she also grew up in the parish. She's now studying business down in Cincinnati, so we don't get to see each other quite as often as we used to, but we still keep in good touch. And of course, my parents are here in town also, and it's always great to be able to spend time with them. I'm able to spend a lot more time with them now since we've been on lockdown with this
Right.
pandemic going around. But yeah, so there are some good things.
So, with the pandemic happening, what's happened in terms of your seminary formation at this point?
Right. So typical seminary formation is done at the seminary. You're a full-time live-in student. The community aspect is a very important part of that. But right now we're doing virtual seminary. So from the comfort of your living room, essentially. So I get up in the morning here at home and I say my prayers and then log into Zoom or whatever sort of application we're using for online classes. We can still meet with our spiritual directors, check in with the priests who advise us and sort of help to form us as future priests. So we're making it work. We'll just say
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's good. And you have a special event coming up very soon.
I do. Coming up in June, I will be ordained a deacon, which is sort of the penultimate, second to last stage of seminary formation. So I've been at the Josephinum for 6 years now. I'm in my third year of theology, and at the end of that, the bishop calls you to ordination for a deacon, and then the year after that, please God, he calls you to be a priest, which is why you've been going through seminary for so many years.
Right. Yeah. And of course, that was an event that should have happened this evening, but because of the pandemic, had to be cancelled. So I'm really glad for you that, and for the church and for us, that that's now able to be scheduled in June. So congratulations.
Yes,
We'll
thank you.
keep doing our prayers. Some of our parishioners may recognize you. Why would that be?
Yeah, so if this face looks slightly familiar to you, I was assigned to St. Brendan, the Navigator, for the summer of 2018. So I was under the astute tutelage of Father Bob and Father Tom, and then Father Ed that summer. So it was a good
Yeah.
summer to get to know a little bit more about parish life, get to know, of course, all the people, many of the people of the parish through all sorts of big events that you have over the summer that are always a good time.
Yeah, it's very sad. We're having to review all of those. So things like our parish picnic, that's now put off until September.
Hmm.
Our nights, our men's club, Knights of Columbus Steak and Ale, which is always an awesome night out for the men of the parish.
Yeah, I
That's
remember
actually
that.
postponed into September, but we didn't want to cancel them completely, so we're trying to do them. But obviously, June won't be a great month for us because we're still coming out of this situation and working out where we are going and what we're doing. So tell me, when would you say was the first time you started to think you might have a vocation to the priesthood?
The first time, I think, was when I was in 8th grade. Like I said, I went to the parish school at Immaculate Conception. So growing up, we always had, our religion classes, our faith formation. But that year was special for us because we had a seminarian who was living at the parish that whole year. He was on a pastoral year to get to know parish life better. And so he was really good at being present with all the students in the school. And his presence there sort of, I don't know, I felt this question being asked of me from somewhere, wasn't quite sure where, wasn't quite sure why, of, huh, that's really cool. Maybe I want to do that. Yeah.
That's great. Wonderful. And then what steps did you take after that when you were in high school in terms of continuing that kind of discernment journey?
Yeah, so I went to St. Charles here in Columbus, and they have, of course, a chapel in the school. So before school, some of us would get together and we would pray the Liturgy of the Hours, which are the various series of prayers that priests and religious and all the faithful are encouraged to pray every day. So that was very formative in sort of building up a habit of prayer.
Hmm.
I also became a lot more involved at the parish. I had been an altar server for a few years, but I think at that point I started caring a little bit more about what I was doing,
Right.
um, and sort of paid more attention to the Mass, to the beauty of the Mass, to all the depth of what is going on here. Why is it so important to us? And I also got in contact through different events with the director of vocations for the diocese, who was Father Noble at the time.
Great. Wonderful. Good.
Mhm.
And what about making trips to the seminary to experience the life there and see what sort of life it was?
Yeah, so there were a couple different events. Father Noble would put on different, I don't, maybe you could call them symposia, where we learned about vocations, and seminary life and all these sorts of things. And he arranged through the Josephinum to spend like a long weekend there. You got there on a Thursday night, and you left Saturday afternoon. They do that. The Josephinum does that once in the fall and once in the spring, typically. They're live-in weekends to sort of learn the place, see what a seminarian does throughout a normal day, sit in on a few classes. Um, I sat in on a couple of philosophy classes. I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
It didn't really change when I took the class a few years later, but that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, I think, probably think when you go to seminary, all you're doing is going to class, reading books, and spending your time on your knees. But the Josephinum has some other opportunities, doesn't it?
Yeah, so of course, prayer and study are big parts of seminary life. But as I said earlier, just living in community, living with other men discerning a vocation is also really formative. So we have social time, whenever we don't have class, we don't have prayers that we need to go to. In each of the different colleges, there's the School of Liberal Arts, your minor seminary, and then there's the School of Theology, the major seminary. Each one has its own pub where you can go hang out in the evenings, play games. We have several different sports tournaments throughout the year too. So lots of different extracurricular activities to keep us engaged and growing as men as well as seminarians.
So that's great. And I think I'm right in saying there's also a gym and a bowling alley.
Yeah, so in the back of campus, we have lots of things. We have the gym, which has a new basketball floor, a weight room. We have a swimming pool,
Mhm.
and like you said, a bowling alley, which we have 4 lanes. Not all of them work all the time, but usually at least one is. Uh,
Right.
our Knights of Columbus chapter at the Josephinum recently has been putting on pizza and bowling nights. So usually a couple times a semester on a Saturday night, they'll go out and order a bunch of pizzas and we'll go hang out down there, bowl a few rounds or whatnot, and have a good time.
Great. It's wonderful. Good. So, what advice would you give to any young man in high school or perhaps eighth grade who's discerning or thinking perhaps this is something God is asking me to do? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, first I would say keep praying. That's where our vocation comes from. It's a gift to us. Vocation comes from the Latin word to call. So it's something that we receive, and that vocation we're going to hear that call first through prayer, and also being open to it. A lot of people, and I know myself before having met that seminarian when I was in eighth grade, don't ever consider it an option.
Mhm.
We have our what do I want to be when I grow up, and it's always a scientist or a businessman or a lawyer or doctor or something like that. But maybe think a priest also, as you can testify, and as I've seen, it's a great life.
Yeah.
There's so much good that we can do I would also say to anyone discerning a call to the priesthood is find a priest to talk to. You know, you have your pastor or maybe another priest that you know, either through school or through a camp that you've been to. Reach out to them. They would love to hear from you. I mean, I'm sure you can say it's true that it's really amazing when a young man comes to you and says, "Hey, what do you do? I think I might want to do that too."
Right. Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. And certainly it's such a varied life. I've just been on a Zoom call doing another segment with Father Dan Swartz, who's out, of course, in California,
Mm-hmm.
serving in the Navy, in the Marines. So, you know, sometimes people think that we have a very kind of regimented box life, like this is it, and there's nothing, but actually it's very varied. And we do lots of different things, and we're called upon in lots of different situations. And really, no
Right.
one day is the same as the next.
Exactly. If you want an exciting life, go be a priest. Who
Yeah,
knows what's going to come next for you?
absolutely. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to drop in. Thanks for the call.
God bless.
Thanks, Father.